want to talk about the addiction to urgency. I mean, I can remember, I'm old enough to remember when we didn't have all as much noise. There was always noise, but now it's, you've got shorts, you've got everybody's on their phone all day long. Things are a mile a minute. That urgency of want to move and build momentum fast, you can really spread yourself way too thin without, building the foundation that enables you to grow, if that makes sense. So when it comes to like this addiction to urgency and everything being these 3-second clips and all that, how do you kind of, corral that so that things do move fast enough, but not to a point where, you're putting so much urgency on it that things just kind of overheat and derail?
There's a lot to your question, Steve. One thing when you were speaking, I thought about is like we live in a day and an age where people actually watch things on mute.
Yeah.
Just think about it, like we've gone back to silent movies, right?
Right.
And it's just, I believe it has to do with how much noise is out there. Not only am I watching, I'm listening to it. It's like information overload. So I definitely believe that we're living in a time where there is information overload if you let it, and people will self-regulate in some of these ways that we're all familiar with. If you make things that are not urgent, you lose all sense of order.
Mm-hmm.
And there has to be a sequencing of things. If you really want to build something, like there's an order to doing it. And if you follow that order, then things work out. And if you don't, there's going to be a lot of havoc that, there's a price to pay for that. And so I try to not make anything urgent unless it needs to be urgent. There's a struggle I have in that because there's often times where things that I want done that I pushed out for people don't get done. Like people don't make it to it, even though I pushed out the deadline. And that's hurt me. So there is a lot of temptation to make as many things urgent as possible, just as a default. But if you do that on your team, we have to understand that there's a consequence. So we know there's a consequence to micromanaging. There's also a consequence to giving people too much all the time, where you don't recognize that they're a person, not a machine. And so I believe that there is some self-regulation required around that. And if you're not looking at how much you're giving to a person and how much like stimulation it is, if you're not paying attention to that, you're probably going to lose your people, and then their productivity will continue to slide, and you'll wonder why. So it's kind of up to the person that's in charge to make sure that they're limiting the noise, allowing the greater focus. So one of the things that I do is I'm trying to hire less and less creative problem solvers, and the ones that are creative problem solvers, put them on solving creative problems, but not putting them in the normal work lanes where they have to produce at a high level. See, some things are mass produced, right? In the service world or manufacturing, there are definitely things that are mass produced. And then there are some things that are more custom. And so we have to recognize where things need to be mass produced. It should just be a very easy to follow system. And the custom solutions require more thought, less speed, more thoroughness, and a different set of skills. And so when we delegate things out or delegate responsibilities or tasks out, let's look for creative problem solvers to handle the things that really require that thought, and not try to take that person and put them in a mass producing environment, and vice versa. So you have to know your players. If you ultimately pay the bill, you need to understand what are they more predisposed to, like where are they going to be more successful more often. And it's a great distinction for me. So the creative problem solvers belong over here, not in my day-to-day. If they're in the day-to-day, they're just going to be too inconsistent. They're too comfortable breaking the rules in order to try to find a solution, so their consistency won't be at the level that I need, that I promise to my clients. But if I don't have the creative problem solvers, when we face an issue that is not solved in the ordinary course of business, you need someone to go out there and solve it if you don't have those folks. So you need both. You need to respect both and put them in the right position. And in doing so, I will just automatically reduce the amount of noise, reduce the tension and anxiety in their day, so that they're able to move a little faster in whichever sandbox they're playing in.
How do you identify the creative problem solvers?
Part of it is they self-identify. But if someone doesn't do what I ask them to do in the way that I ask them to do it, it's like a tip-off. Like, I asked you to do it this way and you did it this way. Well, I thought this would be better. Now, oftentimes the manager comes back and says, why didn't you just do it the way I told you? And there's a lot of validity to it. But if you're trying to solve things that other people haven't solved, and you're trying to innovate, you kind of want that person that took on the initiative. So you don't want to criticize the initiative. You want to be critical of where it was applied. Like, I love that you're willing to go outside of the normal bounds in order to push for this better solution.
Mhm.
I love that. This is not the scenario for that. Here's where that scenario, where that is a very healthy move for us. Here's why it's not healthy in this situation. How am I going to develop consistency and build a team if each person does it differently? How do I keep track of it? There's 30 of you doing the same thing.
Mhm.
I've got to manage 30 different ways, and we need to have our standard way. However, that skill is beautiful over here. So I look for things where people have taken on the additional step because it's more work, not less.
Mhm.
They've taken on that additional step without any provocation. Like I didn't ask them to or anything. If they just did that instinctually, it's something that they like, and they probably like impressing people. They like solving something. And if you can feed that, they could be a very important part of your team.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things I look for, is that they have this internal proactive push for a solution without provocation.
On the urgency, the point, this addiction to urgency, I think it's just hearing you talk and having this conversation. When I think of what you built around Smart Spend, for your other companies, it's almost a way to resolve that addiction to urgency in a way that makes things more efficient, if that makes sense. Would that be an accurate way to kind of describe that?
I'd say that we're trying to optimize, and
Yeah.
optimize typically takes in speed, cost, and performance all together. So how do we improve our performance, improve our speed while lowering costs? So if we're cheaper and
Hmm.
faster, and with better quality, we're certainly better. And so
Hmm.
how do we do that? And so optimization is at the center of that thought. And so if you wanted to optimize, does it sound like you're optimizing when you're taking things that are not urgent and making them urgent?
Hmm.
Like that doesn't feel like it's in the direction of optimizing. It's like if it went in its rightful position, item number 37 should sit firmly in spot 37,
Yeah.
not be moved up to 5, but not pushed down to 40. It
Hmm.
should be at 37. And understanding that and saying, hey, we will function at a higher level when the top 3 most important things are treated like the top 3 most important
Hmm.
things, and items 7 through 10 are treated like 7 through 10. And when we can fix ourselves in that way, we don't allow a lot of this noise that comes in through everything being urgent. And I'll have to tell you, my struggle is usually not with the rank and file of the team who does this with urgency. It's typically senior people.
Hmm.
And those senior people start taking every issue that comes their way and say, fix this, fix this, fix that, do this, do this, do that. And they create the chaos on the team. And what happens is they destroy that middle management. I've gone through this too many times where they destroy the middle management. Somehow the middle management and below are responsible for the overall health of that client.
Right.
But the senior people that are paid the most amount of money, it's not, I didn't do it. They screwed up. It's not my responsibility. And that is just so unhealthy for a company.
Hmm.
It's the fastest way to run people out the door. Whether they leave or their commitment runs out the door, either way, you're losing
Yeah.
something. The talent isn't participating at the level that you need it to be.
When I think of just what you did with Smart Spend and the facility side, because all those, especially with the type of clients that you have, everything is urgent in theory, right? Something's broken or whatever. The way that you built that, I wonder, you can almost apply that philosophy or that overarching idea to almost any project a business might have, right? Like here's the goal. We want to
Mhm.
X, right? This is a happy spot. This is the expectation. These are urgent. These are not so urgent, but we're going to get them all done.
Right. That's what optimization is.
Right.
If you treat everything the same, you haven't created a hierarchy.
Hmm.
So if there's 10 things to be done, what are the 3 must-dos, right?
Yeah.
If you say all 10 are vital, okay, well, sometimes it does require every step in the process. So that would not be the right type of comparison.
Hmm.
So it would be comparing doing all 10 steps of this or all 9 steps of something else. Like you have to have the right competition. And so a lot of this comes down to education. People are in a habit of doing things the way that they're doing. When it comes to the facility side, facility maintenance, for
Hmm.
example, there's just standard defaults like, hey, this thing is an emergency. It needs to be done in 4 hours. This needs to be done in 24 hours. This needs to be done in 72 hours. And those are the 3 standard ones. And that's great. And that's the industry norm. But when you go back and say, well, you're trying to lower your costs and you're trying to improve performance. Okay, if speed isn't as vital, like this item doesn't impact your sales and it
Hmm.
doesn't impact the functionality, why would you treat it like all these other items that are? If these impact sales and performance and you treat them like this and these do not, we don't necessarily need to treat them the same way. If we open these up and say, instead of giving me 3 days to get these done, you gave me a week. well, I can lower my trip charge because it's more likely that I'll be close to that store
Mhm.
or that location within 7 days than in 3 days.
Mhm.
If you gave me 2 weeks to do it, I can lower my trip charge even further. If you give me four weeks, which some of our clients do, because they're trying to get as much value out of their budget as possible, and if it's not impactful, don't treat it like it is. We do it for virtually no trip charge. So the savings are incredible. We do this in all kinds of areas,
Mm.
in real estate management, in real estate maintenance, in the facilities maintenance companies that we have. This is everywhere. So this
Hmm.
kind of logic is saying, if you don't establish a hierarchy to your priorities, you're going to let a lot of noise in. You're going to be treating a lot of things as urgent, and then you're going to be paying the fee of urgency, which is burnout of the team, a turnover of people, and it's usually more expensive. None of those things feel like they're in the path of optimization. So that was just an example of how I've taken a company that has these very specific things that it does for its clients, and is hired for a certain reason, and been able to structurally, right, by design,
Mhm.
remove a lot of the noise around what's urgent. But this is everywhere. So let's say somebody
Hmm.
fails on a project or something. Do we need to deal with it right now? Do we have to drop everything we're doing and get on that? Or how do we do that? When we have a new idea or new system that we're trying to put in place, do we give it enough time to breathe? One of the things that people do that is a big mistake is that they roll out something new and they don't give it time to acclimate.
Hmm.
And hey, we're not getting these improved results. We just launched it. It's like people need to get in the habit of it. It's a new process. They're thinking it through. They're trying to get comfortable with it. Instead of saying, hey, it's got to go from zero to working all the way, hey, we believe this is going to take probably 4 weeks to do.
Mhm.
What do I need to see at the end of day one, day two, day three? Because you want to launch it right. What do I need to see at the end of week one? What do I need to see at the end of week two, three, and four? And have this different kind of expectation. But this kind of plan and understanding that there's going to be a lot of noise around that, it allows us to be free from this automatic, everything needs to be changed overnight, into saying, we see things are trending in the right direction. We set the foundation right. They're trending better, better, better. And then we can pivot along the way when we see that we're not hitting those milestones within there. Or maybe our milestones were off. And it allows us to just this time to reflect. We can reduce the noise and urgency for our team with a stronger plan and a more appropriate set of expectations. And in doing so, we're going to allow our people to be a lot freer to do great work. So for entrepreneurs, things is that their sense of urgency, they apply to a lot of things. And I don't want to demonize it because it's actually helpful. It gives them the energy and the desire to push through and get, and that's part of the reason why they accomplish a lot. And so I'm trying to say that it's misplaced.
Hmm.
If they always operate at that level, it's very hard to smell the roses. It's very hard to develop a great team when nothing is ever good enough and you're always changing and trying to make it better. It sounds good. We have to close this account. We got to
Yeah.
get this deal. We got to get this out the door. It sounds good and justified, but at the end of the day, if you're taking people and running them through the most vigorous process like you're going through, and they're compensated a fraction of what
Mhm.
you're like what you're compensated, there's going to be a problem there. You have to make it easier for people to be successful in their role, and part of that is by giving them the right level of responsibility with the right timelines and things like that. If you wanted to get faster, typically you have to throw more resources at it. Otherwise you'll burn out the great resources that you already have.
Mhm.
And so an entrepreneur must be thoughtful about their team. They must say, hey, my team is going to face a lot of noise, a lot of complaints. I have to zero in on the things that are most important, most critical. I have to sequence out some expectations around it and help them get there. And that's the piece. I have to help them get there. Part of me helping them get there is by not putting too much on them,
Mm.
not putting too much speed on them when it's not required. A byproduct of that, if I don't overdo urgency, anytime I say something is urgent, it allows them to know that this is an urgent item and must be treated as such. But if I treat everything like it's urgent, and then things are going to slip, the person's in the habit of letting things that are urgent slip. What a terrible habit for a business. It requires a lot of self-discipline. Entrepreneurs must learn the self-discipline to not overdo the urgency for their team. They cannot do that and expect to scale their business.